It is my absolute pleasure to be joined today by author DJ Richards. She is the author of the newly released book, Wheat in the Tares. And so, DJ, tell us about this book.
Well, the book is it's a story about my life. How I wanted to share how destitute that the enemy can get to try and stop your future. And the more opportunities that you can recognize should tell you that your purpose here is phenomenally important. I didn't get the opportunity to stop and just look at what I was doing until all the hurt, all the shame, all the pain, all the agony, until I got to the place where I was like, I was raised in a religious church, and I was never introduced to Jesus, my friend. So, but I knew who he was, and I was really sick. I had already had one stroke. I was 283 pounds, and I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop anything. But I knew by the way I was going, had type 2 diabetes so dramatic that my blood sugar wouldn't even register on meters. But I figured, I'm going to die, and I know there's a heaven and a hell, and I don't want to go to hell. So I started seeing this little character on TV, and I'll call him a character all day long, because Jesse Duplantis, if you want to laugh about Christianity, you got to listen to Jesse Duplantis. He got me out of myself long enough to follow him to Calvary Christian Center in Ormond Beach. And I just went there to see him. I didn't know anything about Calvary Christian Center, nothing, except for Jesse Duplantis was going to be there November 4th, 2004. And I got in there, and he didn't let me down. But before he came on stage, I met the man who would help me change my life, and that is Apostle Jim Raley. And I was introduced to his adorable wife, who is so smart. And you talk about demon killer, Pastor Don Raley is a demon killer. She will stand beside you and show you how to pray, and effectual prayers of the righteous moves mountains. But I didn't know any of this stuff. I had just come in to get a giggle, and I saw this guy. He looked like he walked right out of my mama's kitchen. I had 6 brothers. Most of them's passed. I have 2 left, but they were all 6 foot. I always looked up to them my whole life without a choice. They were tall. I'm 5'4". I had no option. But here he comes. He's 6'4" or 6'5", and I'm like, he's got to be one of my brothers. He's got to be related to me somehow. Well, through the blood of Christ, he is. Through the blood of Christ, he's my spiritual father. And he talked just like we talk, down home. And I'm like, you've got a Southern accent. I can trust you. So, I had been exposed to religious leaders my whole life. And that's like exposing somebody to giving them crackers if they're dying of thirst in a desert. Wrong timing all the way around. But God had gotten me there, the perfect place, the perfect timing. And I've watched him. I didn't realize that I was growing as I was watching them. But I was floored by the passion and the power in that passion. I never had it before in my life, not unless I had drugs or alcohol, because my story from the time I was like 4 or 5 years old was dark and ugly. Actually, I think I was 7. I had been exposed. My dad was a deacon in all the churches that we went to periodically throughout my life. But there was no, it was like a good old boys club or a proper ladies club. It wasn't, let me take you to your Savior, your friend, your Jesus. Let me introduce you to a God that loves you more than any human ever could. Let me show you your Father who wants to give you your own world. I was just trying to scratch in this world and not die and go to hell. And the doors of heaven opened up. And I still remember the sweetest ladies, Linda and Katie, who greeted me that first time. They're still there. I'm still there. But these ladies, when they hugged me, it was like being hugged in my mama's kitchen. When I feel safe, it was a feeling in my mom's kitchen. You couldn't get me if I was in my mom's kitchen, because she wouldn't let you. She was all of 5'3". But I mean, my mom held some power. That's like knowing your crown is where it's supposed to be and ordering all these people around you to do what you want them to do. She had the power. So I trusted in her. But eventually I lost her from diabetes. And my dad just, me and my dad are a missed opportunity. I'll just say it like that, because the book will tell you what's going on inside of it. But this is a little girl who had to find some kind of light in extreme darkness and believing in her God. I was baptized 7 times before I was 55. And most of that was before I was 13 years old. I rededicated my life at Calvary when I was 55. But from the time I was 7 till I was 13, I was baptized 7 times, trying to wash it off of me. Not just me, but my bigger sister, the one 2 years older. We were buddies, and then we weren't, because of the darkness that creeps in. And there was no outlet back then. There was no rescue missions. There was no child welfare. If you called HRS on my dad, you'd be dead before they got there. So we knew better. But God, I believe in my heart that my mom and dad made it to heaven. I believe that. I believe Daddy had to get some spankings. But I know that they did, because they introduced me to the idea of God. But ever since I've got my relationship, and I was damaged in an accident at work. I was damaged a year later, the same leg, going to work. So I had 4 years, I couldn't do anything with my leg and my pelvis but read. And I started finding keys. My pastor Dawn, she always told me about keys to the kingdom. He's giving you keys to the kingdom. Well, what does that mean? I didn't care before. But when I didn't have anything to do but study, I was like, that's a key. The keys are his promises. And if you're doing everything up to that promise, you are entitled to that promise. But you still have to reach up and get it and pull it down. You tell your father, hey, Dad, I want that now. I deserve that. Your word says. You tell God what his word says, and that stirs him up to give like it's a holy father. A holy father with no limits. God's got no limits. All right, and he loved us so much. He wanted us all so much He took a piece of himself and made him flesh. And Jesus knew what he was in for. But except until he got down here and saw how really rotten we are. He did pray, Lord, take this cup from me. They really probably ain't worth it. But no, he's like, but no, not my will, but yours be done. So that way we all get to go home if we will choose. Read the word. I lay before you life and death. You don't have to guess. Choose life. He tells us, why aren't we doing that? Why aren't all of us? Our world would be so different if we actually trusted in a Father we could not see.
Absolutely.
But if you do all his words, you can feel him and you can hear him. I mean, and then you see him in things that you're doing, or just in delays or increases. You see him like that. One day we'll see him face to face. But until then, we see him differently. And, it just takes a little bit of effort. Where'd the book come from? I trusted him. He told me for 20 years to do it, but I didn't quite, well, not 20, about 15. He's like, write it down, get it out of your soul. I'm like, that's me. I'm just talking to myself. After a while, I'm like, and then he brought it up to one of our associate pastors. I was in her class for doing something. It was Pastor Liz, and she's like, I don't know who I'm talking to, but God says, write the stupid book. I was like, I love her. And I'm like, I hope it didn't hurt too bad, because he should have smacked me in the back of the head. So I wrote the book. I wrote it down. It took me 6 months of severe crying. It was like a mourning, an emptying out of my spirit. My soul got to dump all of that darkness. I thought I did it when I got anointed with oil. I thought I did everything up to then. But the book says, make it plain, write it down. Okay, I didn't want to do that part, because that means ripping open the Band-Aid and giving God complete access. Nobody wants to give up that kind of control. But oh, wow, is it so worth it? It is so worth it. I don't believe I've been so free all my life.
I love this. And I love too, I mean, what a great message that you have brought from this book, about really showing the difference between religion versus relationship. And I think that's a very powerful message that the world needs today. And I do want to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today about you, your book, or the message within the book?
I will share that with all this coming out of my soul, I can be more of a mother to my 4 children. I have 2 children in heaven, but I have 4 down here that never really got the full me. And my baby son just made me a grandma number 4. I've got 3 beautiful granddaughters and a grandson. They're all scattered all over the place, so I don't get to see them much unless they do this Zoom with me. But this one lives in Palm Coast. She's a drive away, so I can see her anytime. I've got to hold her. She is so beautiful. Her and her mom, or her mom and her dad, are so tall that she weighed 8 pounds 10 ounces, but she was all bundled up like this. When they unrolled her, she was 22 inches long.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's my little rodeo queen.
Well, that is wonderful.
That it's open. When you lay your burden in front of God, when you just go ahead and rip that Band-Aid off, you will be healed like never before. I mean, I've lost 125 pounds. I didn't do a whole lot of nothing. They just told me I was dying because I was diabetic and my blood sugar wouldn't read on their meters. I'm like, don't call me names. That's rude. I have high blood sugar. Okay. I'm just extra sweet. Do not label me. I do that well enough on my own. Yeah, but I wanted to live. I finally wanted to live. I didn't want to just get by. I want to see just what God can do. All right. You want me? I did my part. Now, what are you going to do with it? Huh? Well, he's doing it. He's doing it. He's giving me joy. He's giving me new people to smile with. What a privilege that is. You know, you live as a recluse when you carry a dark burden. You don't want anyone too close to you. You don't want to let anybody in. They might see your scars. Now I'm like, my scars are a roadmap to heaven. Follow them all the way home. I just realized, you know, we're only here for a little while. It's our body finally gives out. We get to go home.
Right.
You know, some of us don't even get an extended lifespan. We just get a little bit of time. Like my two sons, the oldest one was 11 months old. But I also read they're in heaven waiting for me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What a glorious day. I can't eat cake down here right now. But when I get to heaven, me and my boys are going to hit some ice cream and cake.
Oh, you better believe it. Yes.
I just believe in a different realm now. It's all about letting the Bible open you up. You know, it's the words in here that are in red, they're really serious. In red, Jesus is giving us keys to the kingdom. They're in red. You know, even a person like me can pick it up with my silly little accent.
Hey, I've got a silly accent too, so we're on the same page.
I know you probably couldn't tell I have 2 degrees.
I can absolutely tell you do. So, but I do want to let everyone know that DJ Richards' amazing new book, Wheat and the Tares, is available everywhere online that books are sold. It's available on Amazon, online at Barnes and Noble, Reader House, Apple Books, all the places. And what a powerful
give it to somebody that's struggling.
Powerful testimony, yeah, for anyone who's struggling and who's maybe grown up in the religion world and there was a different side of God, and that there's a relationship side. So DJ, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your powerful message with us, and we look forward to seeing more from you.
Excellent. Thank you so very much for having me on.